What happened to Maura Murray? This is a case that has been baffling investigators and the general public alike since 2004, and even though there have been many theories surrounding her sudden and unexplained disappearance, over the years none of them have really stuck. So let's talk about this case. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student at the time of her disappearance. She grew up in suburban Massachusetts, and according to those who knew her, she was doing well both academically and personally. She was known for being a bright and motivated student who always put her mind to achieving the goals that she set out for herself. And outside of school, she was involved in extracurricular activities. She loved skiing and hiking. She worked part-time at a local restaurant, and she had recently begun taking flying lessons. In fact, her instructors described her as a gifted pilot who had the potential to become a commercial airline pilot one day, if that is what she wanted. So then why, just 2 months after turning 21, would she suddenly drop out of sight without a trace? On February 9, 2004, Maura called in sick to work at the restaurant where she was employed. The following day, she was scheduled to take a big exam for school. But rather than studying, it seems as though she spent most of the day driving around New Hampshire in her 1996 Saturn. How we know this is because every time she stopped somewhere, she used her debit card. And when police tracked down the businesses and reviewed security footage, they were able to see Maura's car parked outside. At 3:27 p.m., surveillance cameras captured Maura entering the Red Jacket Mountain View Lodge, located in the town of Albany, New Hampshire. After purchasing some snacks, she left the store and drove away. But not far from the lodge, just 5 minutes later at 3:32 p.m., another surveillance camera caught her car passing by. It seemed as though she was fine and heading home. But less than 2 hours later at 5:15 p.m., Maura called her family's home phone from a payphone and left a rambling voicemail message. She sounded panicked. She repeatedly stated that she needed to get home, but she didn't say why or explain where she was. Even more alarming was the fact that her speech was slurred, as though she'd been drinking and she could be heard, sniffling throughout the message as if she'd been crying. At one point she said, "I don't want to be alone. I need someone to help me." But apart from these few sentences, she never revealed her location, nor did she say anything else that could have provided clues as to where she might be. At 6:17 p.m., a state trooper pulled over her car for allegedly speeding at the intersection of routes 112 and 116 in the town of Haverhill. During the traffic stop, he asked Maura for her license and registration, but she told him that she did not have either on her, and that she couldn't remember her license plate number. When the officer went back to his cruiser to run her information, he learned that her car had been reported stolen out of Massachusetts. He then arrested her for receiving stolen property and transported her to the nearest jail. A short time later, at 6:45 p.m., she was released from jail on $2,500 bail with the condition that she was not allowed to drive. According to the booking officer, she appeared intoxicated, so they called a taxi for her. But what happened next is unknown. We don't know if she made it home or if she got to her family's house safely. What we do know is that she hasn't been seen since. For weeks, authorities searched for Maura, and her family offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. Her story received national media attention, and hundreds of tips poured into a special tip line. But despite all the leads, nobody had any new information. Nobody had seen her. No bodies were found. There was no sign of foul play. And even though her bank account was active for quite some time following her disappearance, she never withdrew any money. She just dipped into her account using her debit card at various ATMs. In April 2004, she was officially declared dead. Her family continued offering the reward for information. Now, there are a lot of questions that come to mind when reviewing this case. Was she abducted off the street, or did she willingly get into a stranger's car? Was she the victim of foul play, or did something happen to her that caused her to go missing, like a tragic accident? And where is she now? Over the years, police have followed up on hundreds of tips, but unfortunately none of them have led to Maura being found. One of the main reasons for this is that there were almost no witnesses and little physical evidence to go off of. All of the available evidence was circumstantial. For example, although Maura's car was spotted near the Red Jacket Mountain View Lodge, nobody saw her enter the vehicle. Did she drive herself there, or did someone else drive her? Similarly, although she was pulled over for speeding, no officers witnessed her driving erratically. Which would make sense if she had just borrowed her friend's car and was unfamiliar with how it handled. The fact that she didn't have her license or registration on her may have been because she was scared of being arrested. Maybe she was trying to lay low because she was a witness to a crime. Or maybe she was trying to get away from someone who was stalking or harassing her. Again, we don't know. While it makes sense that she would be scared enough to leave her car and disappear, it also doesn't make sense that after calling her family's house saying that she was scared and needed help, she would just vanish without a trace. Another confusing aspect of this case is that although Maura was listed as a missing person, her body was never recovered, and no one came forward claiming to have seen her after. February 9, 2004, police were only able to access 3 months' worth of her bank account activity, which ended in May of that year. Then the account became inactive, and there were no further withdrawals. At first, this was thought to be odd. Why would someone who disappeared suddenly just abandon her money? However, it's possible that whoever was with her at the time of her disappearance took care of it for her, so it's not necessarily proof that she's dead. Another question is, why did Maura change her behavior right before disappearing? She withdrew $300 from an ATM in Haverhill just 3 days before she vanished. Then she went to her father's house and withdrew $400 more. 2 days later, she bought gas for her car using her debit card at 12:45 a.m. This isn't normal for her. She wasn't a night person. She didn't go out late, and she wasn't known for making impulsive decisions. So why did she wake up in the middle of the night, take a long drive, and buy gas? What was she afraid of? Afraid of what? And why did she drive around in her boyfriend's car knowing that it wasn't registered to her? While we may never know the truth about what happened to Maura Murray, we can speculate that she was fearful of something, whether it was her boyfriend, a stalker, a loan shark, or a completely unknown individual. Whatever the case may be, it was enough to cause her to abandon her own car, steal her boyfriend's travel. Almost 2 hours, withdraw large sums of cash, spend time in jail, and then run away into the woods, fully clothed, leaving behind her cell phone and wallet, not to mention. The fact that she left behind her warm clothing and winter boots and was never seen again? If you've watched other videos on my channel, you'll know that I've covered similar cases where people seem to have done the same thing. In the majority of cases, it turns out that the missing person was trying to get away from a bad relationship. While I'm not implying that this is what happened in Maura's case, it is definitely a possibility. Authorities believe that Maura hiked into the woods after her traffic stop and have concentrated their search efforts in the area. In the weeks following her disappearance, thousands of volunteers combed through those very same woods looking for any sign of her. Unfortunately, nothing turned up. Today, the case remains unsolved. Now, what do you think happened to Maura? Do you think she's still out there somewhere, or is she no longer with us? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video and you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.